welcome everyone. Thank you for coming here. I'd like to thank everyone for spending the evening with us to start with, along with all the memberships and our donors that are here this evening. We truly appreciate you. All right, can't hear me again? Is that what I'm hearing? Oh, no, okay. That's hard to believe. Probably do better without a microphone, but, which I probably will do when I turn to the side here. Again, my name is Brad Robson. Been on the board now a couple of years, so I'd like to introduce our board members that are here this evening. Starting with Dave Van Dyke. I saw him come in. He's over here. Tom Fassbender. He's over in this corner. Aaron Parker. On the other side of the room. Elise didn't make it this evening. And Mr. Chuck Bull stood in the back of the room. This board has been in place now for a couple of years almost with these members, and it's been a good time. I think we're really making progress and moving forward. So, again, I would like to thank the beginnings of the organization, which has got us to where we are today. Now, if we can skip ahead to the new board members, can I do that quick? We have two new members joining the board here. We just, we're going to call enrolled them in the last, in the last meeting. Mary Henry, would you stand up please? And Harry Peterson. These two will be a great addition to the board that we already have. So thank you for agreeing to join us and help us move forward. All right, now I would like to present the executive board for approval from our membership. It's been chosen as Brad Robson, myself, will serve as chairman. Dave Van Dyke has agreed to serve as vice chair. Tom Fassbender has agreed to stay on as treasurer, and Aaron Parker has agreed to stay on as secretary. I would ask for approval from our membership for that to be your executive committee.
Aye.
Everyone agree with that? As you know, or may not know, our board rules are by consensus instead of by voting, but sounding of approval, I hear good things, and we appreciate what you put forward for us, and we look forward to moving things forward.
Thank you, Brad. Everyone is taller than me, so I'm going to just go ahead and bump it up here. Next we have Tom, our treasurer, coming up to present the financial report for the fiscal year, the last fiscal year and the beginning of the current one.
All right, here we go. Let me first get rid of all the boring stuff. Okay, so first, before we get started, you got to know our fiscal year ends June 30th. So this starts July 1st through June 30th of the following year. So, and, well, last year was kind of a rough year for BSN, at least on paper. We had a situation where we were ending a lot of grants, completing the work that was required for those, and we were applying for new grants, but had not yet been awarded them. So we kind of had running a little bit of a deficit. And compared to the previous year, the 22-23 fiscal year, you can kind of see this. We get money basically two ways: grants and contracts, and contributions. These contributions include large institutional contributions and, most importantly, contributions from people in this room, individual contributions. Very important to us. And you can see, like, our contributions are a little bit down. Percentage-wise, they look a little bit more. Our but our grants and contracts were definitely down from last year compared to the previous year. And expenses, we got the major expenses we have are payroll and like our meetings and our programs. The meetings and our programs are the kind of the requirements that are grants that come with the grants. So because we had fewer grants, that percentage in our 23-24 fiscal year was much smaller. Payroll, even though it looks like a larger number, was about the same, but because we were, it's a larger share of the pie that we had. And that's the bad. But the good news is, because of the contributions that we've received, that kind of kept us going through this lean year, and we were able to meet payroll, which is very important, and complete the programs that we had going on. The other good news is, in the coming year, some of those grants that we've applied for, we've been awarded. And so that's the good news. We're very happy about that. So as we look forward to the next year, right now we're still a little lean, but we have every intent, every expectation that next year's going to be a positive year. So that's what we're looking forward to. That's about it. Anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And yeah, the way that grants come and go, it really emphasizes the importance of the contributions that we receive from our members, and the way that we are able to bridge those gaps between them is just so fantastic that we have that kind of wiggle room. Yeah, so we so much appreciate and rely upon our membership in that way. So within the last year, we have some new staff members. I'm so excited to introduce Genesis Gordon, our Conservation Outreach Specialist. She is absolutely rocking her new position, working with community-led groups and landowners to promote conservation practices, and she's just got such a vibrant energy that just gets people excited about putting conservation on the land. So we are very lucky to have her on staff, and she jumped ship from Mississippi Valley Conservancy to come work for us too. And starting tomorrow, we have a brand new staff member. Scott Walter will be joining us as our ecological monitoring coordinator. Very lucky to have him starting on staff. As we'll talk about in our program slides, ecological monitoring is kind of one of our up-and-coming program areas that we're really excited to grow, and Scott will be the perfect person to really jumpstart that program. So he's worked as a DNR biologist for many years. He was the former director of the Kickapoo Valley Reserve, extremely qualified. So, thank you for agreeing to join us. So just to run through who we currently have on staff, there's myself, Beth Summers, the Executive Director. We have Shelley Brenneman, our Conservation Programs Coordinator, who is still siphoning all of her important knowledge to me. I'm so glad that she's here doing that. Genesis, our new Conservation Outreach Specialist. We have Nan Marshall, just doing a wonderful job as our Membership and Communications Coordinator. We couldn't do our prairie work without Dave's wonderful knowledge and expertise, Dave Creer. Last year we brought on Ben Johnston as our GIS specialist, but he does so much more than just mapping. Ben Johnston knows a ton about habitat restoration, invasive species control, birds. He's just a rock star on staff. And I mentioned Scott's coming on, and we also, in the last year, hired a bookkeeper, a part-time bookkeeper on staff, so that's wonderful. Summer Willis, to have an actual bookkeeper on our staff. She is working in conjunction with Abacus Answers accountants to do all of our accounting. And the other consultant that we're still working with on a very regular basis is Jim Munch, and he does a great job of bridging that gap with landowners, so we rely heavily on Jim for some of that. And then we are still working quite a bit with Tom Lukens, our board emeritus, on the prairie plantings. He's been a wonderful asset for that. We were lucky enough to have a summer intern this year. Ansel Brenneman came on, and he helped out with some water quality sampling. He worked on fish surveys with Wisconsin DNR partners. He worked with Ben on some GIS mapping, and he also just did a bunch of organization of our huge library of photo files. So he was a great help over the summer in many different areas. So last year, just over a year ago in 2023, the staff and board worked together to put together our 5-year strategic plan. And I'll just kind of run through that because all the program areas that you're about to hear about next play into how we're achieving that strategic plan now that we're about a year into trying to make that happen. So goal number 1 was promoting best management practices. So outreach and technical assistance for conservation practices with the ultimate goal of achieving measurable changes in water quality in our streams. So some of the strategies we're using to promote best management practice, we're trying to increase landowner participation. We're doing more ecological monitoring to show what management practices are really working to make changes in water quality and other ecological indicators. And so we're using that data to identify which solutions are most effective. And then we're upping our outreach and education for those best management practices. The second goal in our strategic plan is community involvement. So trying to get more involvement in our community and in some of the smaller surrounding communities in our neighboring watersheds. So maximizing our reach by growing our membership and also trying to reach out to all the stakeholders in our communities. So some of the strategies we're using to do that are increasing engagement with members, promoting citizen science monitoring, so things like the Water Action Volunteers program is a great way of getting people directly involved, getting them to really care, and then doing more outreach and education. So we have our Conservation on Tap program, we have various presentations that we do. And then finally, our third goal in our strategic plan is serving as a resource hub for the community. So that's always been a really important role of BSN, to connecting people with resources to achieve conservation. So we're working with our members, other members of the community, various other agencies, nonprofits, businesses, universities, trying to tie all that together and get people talking. So some of the strategies we use, so providing resources and information, such as having a list of resources on our website or on paper. We provide several services to our membership, collecting and summarizing data that you all can see what's going on locally in our environment. Having events that members are invited to, and then providing support for various community initiatives that are going on. So we're actively always trying to expand our network of partners and work with as many different organizations and groups as we can. And so the last thing I'll mention is that before I hand it off to Nan, is this year the Crawford County Land and Conservation Department awarded BSN the 2024 Conservation Educator Award. So at the Crawford County Fair, BSN was presented with an inscribed Leopold bench and a plaque, and this bench is going to go at the prairie planting just here in town at the Sleepy Hollow Ford, where people will be able to sit on it and enjoy the prairie. So it was an honor to receive that. And so I'm ready to hand it off to Nan. There you go.
Well, welcome everybody. It's really wonderful to see so many people here tonight. next year will be our 25th anniversary, and we hope to throw a big celebration to thank all of you for making it possible for us to be around for 25 years. We were going to celebrate in 2020, our 20th anniversary, but you know how that went. So we're moving on. So our main mission is to support and empower members of the community to benefit the entire community, including wildlife, plants, you know, the environment, and all part of that. And you members all contribute to making that possible. From everything from electing our board to, we had a survey that led to input that we used for our strategic planning for the future going forward. And most importantly, really, is that members help support the work that we do that isn't supported by those grants that Tom was talking about. And we actually have a fair amount of work that is outside of that. So we feel like it's important to, members are very important to our ability to be able to extend our work with all sorts of members in the community. But first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight and for being members. We have 150 members this year. It's more than last year, and we thank you for that. During the COVID period, we didn't feel like it was right to really pursue people and ask them to be members, and so we've had a bit of a drop, and each year now we're coming back. And although most of the people are from this area, you can see they're also from 31 cities throughout Wisconsin, and even 8 different states. And first I thought that it was just people who were maybe moving away from here to the other states, but some of them are just people who visited, and I've met them at the farmer's market, and they joined. Or there are a few mysterious people who just seem to have found us online somewhere off in the distance and reached out to become members, which is really wonderful that they feel like we're worthy of support. We have 20 new members this year, which is, again, more than we had last year, so I appreciate that. I feel like we are starting to get to be better known through our community efforts. And these t-shirts, I see more and more people wearing these fantastic t-shirts, and people really like them and spread the word. So this year we're also starting something new. We just started right now, in fact, is we are starting sustainer memberships, which means that you will no longer have to be bothered by letters and reminders to join. And instead, you could just sign up to donate on an ongoing basis, which is easier for us and easier for you. And so you'll find forms on your table if you care to sign up for that particular option. Just let us know. It's not available through our website right now, so you have to fill out the paperwork for us. But we'd love to get people signed up for that. And we also started a legacy donation option. We had someone do that out of the blue last year, who included us in their will, and it was a very nice gift. And it's a good, nice way to continue to support things that are important to you going into the future. So just thought I'd put that out there. So this year, our memberships and donations have totaled $50,000. We had 13 gifts of $500 or more, which we highly appreciate. We appreciate the small gifts as well. We really do appreciate gifts of any size, but the bigger ones definitely make a big difference. As I'll mention later, we'd like to work with local landowners and try to support them as they put native plantings on their lands. And seed is one of the big costs, and we do try to hook people up to resources in the area. But if we can, so it's not always possible that it works out for their project. So one of the things we like to do is help support the landowners by providing them with seed for their prairie plantings. And we did a special appeal where the money went just for the fund that we used to provide seed for landowners. And we raised almost $4,000 through that appeal. So we really appreciate that. And we reached out to some members who we hadn't heard from for a while, and 10 of those people responded. So it was nice to find that there was something that spoke to them, to the native plantings in the area. We also participated in the Sit Pretty fundraiser pizza night, which is always fun. It's great for the staff and board members to have an opportunity to get out and see everyone, and those youth initiative students as well, which we were fortunate to have. And get the $500. And we also sell merchandise like t-shirts. We sell bird-friendly coffee that's raised in full shade. And I don't drink coffee, but from what I've heard, because it takes longer for the seeds to grow, their beans to grow, that they actually have a much more rich and complex flavor. So someone who tries the coffee, which we do have some for sale tonight, can let me know if that's really true. I'd like to be able to tell that with full confidence that that's really a thing. Just so you know, what the money that we raise from the members goes to is work in the community. We do free landowner consultations where if anyone's interested, we come out, we work with the landowner, we talk to them about what their goals are for their land, give suggestions, connect them to resources, and it's all for free. We do a lot of community outreach through programs at libraries and other community organizations. We train citizens to do our water monitoring program that our Citizen Science one. And the data gets entered into the Wisconsin database, and we can use it for some of our information as well. And it lets people really get to know more about their streams and their environment. We do our Conservation on Tap presentations the first Tuesday of the month from October through April, not January because it keeps getting canceled. But we are not doing our presentation tomorrow night because we decided that people were probably going to be busy with something else. And so our next Conservation on Tap will be the second Tuesday of this month on the 12th. And we have a speaker coming to talk about climate change in the Driftless area. And those are also free. And we'd like to thank the Historic Fort Meade for hosting us for free in their lobby on those evenings. And then we also do workshops. We had a prairie restoration workshop this year. So we had events throughout the year. We had over 550 people attend, and that doesn't really count everyone because at the farmers market I can only count the people who signed up sheet there, and there were plenty more people there. And then some of the other events that we had conversations with, but didn't actually count them. So we had events I told, we had a Earth Day open house, we did the Viroqua sidewalk sales. It's kind of fun to just chat with people wandering by. The city-wide trick-or-treat, which was at the fairgrounds. It was kind of a wind tunnel this time. I did try to distribute our flyers by letting the wind blow them off, which happened the minute I put them out, so a couple of nice people chased them down. I guess they stuck into one of the fences down the way and they were retrieved most of them. So that ended my alternative method of distribution. And we did a couple of farmers markets, which is really great. I can get help from one of the board members each time, and so I can work on selling the merchandise and they can chat about what we do, and it works out really well. Ben Johnston, everyone does presentations on our staff pretty much, but Ben Johnston does a lot of the ones just in the community outreach area, and some of his topics, a lot of them are bird related, 7 actions to help birds, planting for birds, bats and citizen science. He works with the middle school, libraries, Anyway, we were very lucky to have someone who's willing to go out and do all those presentations to the public. Now we get back to the point of the evening where I point out that this is a fundraiser. So we're hoping that you find something that interests you on the side that you're willing to bid on. I'd like to really thank the organizations that are willing to just donate to us to support our organization. A lot of them are kind of surprising things. It's always nice to go in to visit these places. For instance, Utopia donated fleece nuggets, which I guess are great for fertilizing your garden. I didn't know they had those. We have mulch from CNC. Physiology gave a drink sampler basket that looks really kind of extravagant. We have sometimes our members donate, so we have a beautiful fishing bag, brand new, and some set of knives that were donated by Harry Peterson. Blue Dog rents all kinds of equipment, snowshoes, skis, bikes, so they are offering a snowshoe rental for a person. Anyway, I hope that you all will take a look over there afterwards. We'll give you a few minutes after we stop talking and for you to take a look. And these are businesses that supported us last year. We always enjoy working with local businesses, and we are actually looking to start a business sponsorship program this year. So we have one business who's interested in working with us to kind of develop the program, and hopefully that will bring on other sponsors. And then, of course, once again, thank you to all the members for making events like this and our other ones possible. But in addition to all of you, we also have a couple big donors, Organic Valley and the Laird Norton Family Foundation, who provide additional support, and we thank them as well. And thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I'm just going to give a quick overview of our programs, and then we'll bring up some of our program people to get more in depth about the individual things that they're working on. But this is just an overarching list of all of our different programs. So from water quality, watershed councils, grazing, prairie, watershed planning is a new effort. Our bird habitat work is fairly new. And then youth education, ecological monitoring, serving as a resource hub, and our mapping and modeling program. So we'll get into each of those in more depth. But we work with over 37 total partners when you count the different nonprofits, government organizations, universities, businesses that we work with. We really have an impressive and growing network of partners that we pair with for our work. And I didn't even mention watershed councils, which of course is such a foundational part of what we're doing in our way of contacting landowners now. So these are the current funds that we have this year and moving into next. We have a brand new grant, really excited to start this NRCS grant, the Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative, which is going to fund our outreach and technical assistance for grazing, grass-fed beef and grazing. We are finishing up the Wisconsin Bird Conservation Partnership. We have a Fishers and Farmers Partnership. We are right now working with the EPA Gulf Hypoxia funding along with the DNR to do a watershed planning effort. We have a contract under Trout Unlimited to help facilitate outreach for an NRCS Regional Conservation Partnership Program. We receive funds from the Laird Norton Family Foundation on an ongoing basis. We're wrapping up as the Ridge and Valley Learning Hub for the Grasslands 2.0 program through University of Wisconsin-Madison. And then we also receive a grant through the Organic Valley Driftless Clean Energy Program. So I'm going to turn it over to Genesis to talk about some of her work.
Hi y'all, good evening. It's so nice to see all of you here. What a beautiful group of people people. I am so happy to be able to serve you and your communities in this position. So thank you, Beth, for hiring me, and this team of people that I've been working with is truly incredible. We're so lucky to have them supporting our environment and our community. My name is Genesis, as you already heard, and what I've been doing with BSN, well, we all wear many hats, as with a small nonprofit, but I've been really enjoying working with landowners and farmers to help them implement best management practices, which goes from everything to cover crops, rotational grazing, planting prairies, stream bank restorations, you name it. We've been trying to encourage people to do more of it. And one of the things that you may recall from last year is that we spent a good amount of time helping the watershed councils unite under one banner. And that banner is dubbed the Hill Country Watershed Alliance. And it is comprised of the Coon Creek Conservation Watershed Committee, Tainter Creek's Watershed Council, the Bad Axe Watershed Stewards, and Rush Creek Watershed Conservation Council. 4 groups in local watersheds have come together with several goals, the primary one of which is to act as a fiscal agent for unincorporated watershed councils, which just means essentially assisting with the applications for grants and crafting MOUs so that they can distribute the funding that grants offer, and also collecting the reimbursements from those grantors to distribute back to the watershed councils. It sounds really boring, but it's an integral part of what allows these producers to do the good work that they do. And so this board is fairly new. It came together in September of 2023, I believe is when they became incorporated as a 501c3. And we meet every single month to just get our legs under us. We've been developing our articles of incorporation, our policies and procedures. We elected members, board members. We had MOUs signed with all of the watershed councils who applied for DAPCAP funding, which is producer-led funding to help these farmers do conservation work on the ground. There's been a lot of ongoing check writing for reimbursements from those DAPCAP grants, and they're considering partnership with some larger organizations to accomplish some great work for cover crops and woodland restoration. And they hosted a quarterly meeting in April this year that was a huge success, and I anticipate they'll be hosting another one soon. And so that's the Hill Country Watershed Alliance. It's an amazing group of farmers and producers who have just dedicated so much of their time as volunteers to improving the environment and inspiring their colleagues and friends to do the same. There's so much that we are encouraging and empowering people to do on the ground, and you may recall last year, I actually think it spanned over several years, there was a Tainter grazing project that happened that BSN was working on, and we're continuing that grazing work now. You've heard it probably called many things: regenerative grazing, managed grazing, rotational grazing. But essentially what it is moving your livestock from paddock to paddock within your pasture. In case any of you aren't familiar with the concept, it reduces the impact that the animals have on the ground over an extended period, reduces the instance of compaction, which means more of the beautiful root systems in the pasture stay where they are, which holds the soil, which can improve water quality. Rotational grazing has a ton of benefits, more than I could list to you now. It is a solution that can be applied to almost every landscape because animal inputs in moderation, when they're controlled, really stimulate the soil, the biology in the soil. They encourage deeper root growth. They encourage better forage growth, above ground leafy growth. And really, in essence, a motif that you might pick up on with all of the work that we do is that getting permanent perennial roots in the ground is a solution to a lot of the problems that we have in the environment. And rotational grazing is one way that we can really effectively promote those permanent perennial roots in the ground year-round to reduce erosion and improve water quality. So we have this Grazing Land Conservation Initiative grant that is going to help us provide technical assistance and education and outreach to landowners and farmers in the area who are current grazers or who are just considering getting into grazing. And it doesn't just have to be beef, it can be dairy cattle, it can be goats, it can be sheep. You can even rotationally graze your chickens if you've got the right fencing. I do it at home myself, and they really like it. So you can have a great impact on your land no matter your scale and no matter your livestock class. We will be providing funding to give landowners farm consultations, helping them write grazing plans, helping them hone in their fencing and their watering systems, which can be really complex elements of a grazing system that can make or break its success. And we'll help with forest analysis and enhancement. And in all of those areas, we'll also provide education and outreach. We'll provide workshops and hands-on experiences for producers and especially first-generation farmers to learn more about rotational grazing, pasture walks, field days. We'll have demonstration farms from some of our key partners who have successfully implemented rotational grazing operations of their own. And you heard Beth mention that we're hoping to really jump into a more robust ecological monitoring program. And this grazing grant is going to help us do that by allowing us to test the soils of landowners who are performing rotational grazing, to track and monitor the progress of the robustness and health of that soil over time while they're implementing their operation. We'll continue to do our water sampling in streams adjacent to rotationally grazed pastures to hopefully demonstrate that rotational grazing does indeed improve water quality by capturing sediment and reducing runoff and all of those wonderful things. And of course, we'll test the forage as well to ensure that the livestock are being fed virile, robust, and diverse diets within their pastured areas. So those are the three elements of our Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative program that we will be doing moving forward, and we've been lucky to already begin with some first-generation farmers here in Vernon County. And to make a lot of this possible, we have partnered with some really incredible grazing professionals across the area. These are just a few of the grazing consultants and grazing experts that we have been working with very closely. So if somebody comes to us with a grazing question, say about a fencing system that we can't answer, we can take the funding that we received from GLCI to directly pay for them to meet with one of these consultants to get some expert experience and opinions and evaluations of their farm operation. And we also, a lot of these farmers are providing their own operations as demonstration sites for how successful these kinds of rotational grazing operations can be. And so our goal with this GLCI grant and grazing moving forward is that we're hoping to provide, first and foremost, support, follow-up support to the grazers who participated in the Wallace Center grazing project the last few years, because we don't want to just leave them hanging. We'd really like to lift them up and make sure that they have all the tools moving forward to continue to succeed in this area. We are looking forward to writing and contracting grazing plans for as many grazers as we can. And those grazing plans may or may not be USDA approved, but what we're really just hoping to do is provide structure and support for first-generation grazers or grazers who may be looking to pivot from a conventional system. It doesn't have to be super detailed. We're tailoring what our grazing plans are to each individual and their needs and their goals. We're going to hopefully host 4 pasture walks and multiple field days with our farmer mentors who you saw on the previous page. And we'll host one big grazing workshop that is a very in-depth hands-on experience where grazers can see the different elements of different types of fencing and watering systems. And we'll have some amazing speakers there, so keep your eyes out. If you want to attend, you're more than welcome to, and just meet some of these awesome grazers that come and learn at these events. And as I mentioned before, we'll continue to monitor water, soil, biology, forage, moving forward within this program. And outside of this program, we hope to maintain the relationships that we've built with these grazers to continue to monitor their soils and their water after this grant is completed, so that we can have long-term data to demonstrate the efficacy of grazing on the land. And the beef tips that you had tonight were donated by regenerative grazer Rod Oft. So thank him for that, from Wisconsin Meadows. That was, oh my goodness, I'm sorry if I've just been moving around from the mic. But Rod is a really great guy who's been helping us with GLCI, and he made some incredible beef for us tonight. So give him a hand. He is in Vernon County. He's a leader in grass-fed grazing, processing, marketing. He's really got all the knowledge about building a soil, protecting water quality and habitat. He takes a really holistic approach to his grazing operation, and works at a local USDA facility with cryovac and private label options. Oh, I didn't know that one. Cool. And with that, I'll pass it off to Ben to talk about our water quality sampling.
Hi. So water quality monitoring, VSN has been doing this for, well, since the beginning of dirt. They've been sampling water. I used to help, in fact, in the early 2000s with E. coli monitoring. But anyhow, so they've been doing, we've been doing water monitoring for the nutrients, nitrate and phosphorus primarily in the various watersheds. And then, of course, this data is shared with all of our all the watershed councils. It's uploaded onto the DNR site so that anybody can access it. It's kind of like eBird in a way that everybody can see this data. Yeah, and then as it says there, the ground truthing with Tanger Creek, so that by monitoring we can see what kind of effects that our grazing efforts have changed. This is just a so every time I make a map, I have to look at it after I put it up on the big screen to assess how I did. But anyways, that's not the point. It always looks different when you have it on the computer, doesn't it? And then you put it up and you're like, oh, those lines should have been smaller, and that color doesn't work. Anyways, this is a map that shows the sampling sites that we are using. The red dots are the current ones. There are about 29 of them. Typically, we've had one person do all 29 of those in hopes to get it done in a day. This year we've got a little smarter, at least I think it's smarter, and we break it up a little bit, in which 3 of us are covering the sites. The best sites, of course, are in Coon Valley, the ones that I do. And so I do typically those, and Genesis takes the south route, and then our friend Summer does the ones over towards Lafarge. But it shows you the parameters that we collect for each, I think 29 sites. I think it is 20. Okay, all right, there's a slight typo, but it doesn't matter. I really thought it was 20. Anyways, but it gives you an idea of what we collect, what the information we collect. We do that monthly. I wasn't a really good start.
26 sites plus the 3 ways. So you're right.
Okay, so thank you. Yes, so we have, anyways, we'll get to that. So the Water Action Volunteer Program is the citizen science that we do with folks going into the streams and taking measurements. We do this monthly. You could probably do it anytime you really want. But, and as I like to tell people, the best way to make it more fun is throw a child or 2 into the river, and it really just brings up the dynamics, as I will point out. So anyhow, yeah, I was going to say about this volunteer training. So VSN houses and lends out a lot of equipment. We do training, and like the water quality, we submit that onto the DNR site. This year we had received funding from the WAVE people so in addition to the WAVE monitoring, we were able to contribute or get funding for the water samples as well, the chemistry analysis. And that's where the discrepancy comes from, the 26 plus the 3 sites that we got funding for. And so in efforts last year, I was hoping to really boost up the WAVE program to pre-COVID conditions. I haven't really gotten there yet, but we've done some library presentations. The one we did in Viroqua, I think everybody who attended was already willing to participate, so I don't think I really corrupted anybody or influenced anybody. But we still got some people on board, and a couple new sites were added. We did the on-site trainings. We do those typically at Sidey Hollow. And so, yeah, but I twice now I've gone to the school, the Youth Initiative School, and I teach the children how to do the dissolved oxygen. It's the most intimidating step of the WAVE program because it involves chemistry, but it's really not that scary. And tried recruiting through the KVR Friends newsletter. That did not prove as profitable or fruitful as I wanted, but so it goes. And right, and then I say there's 3 monitoring sites, which I have already talked about. I should also note that there are other sites out there. These nice people who some of them I know, and some of them I don't know, come in, they get their chemistry reagents, and then they disappear. And so I do have some people out there who are just doing it on their own and living the dream. Okay, Dave. Thanks.
All right, thanks. I'm Dave Creer. I do our native plantings for LA Stewardship Network. If you've seen this in previous years, I would normally put up a bunch of graphs and tell you about all the different landowner visits we did and how many acres we've done and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to do a little bit different this year, talk about one site, which is really going to be Sleepy Hollow. But before I do that, I wanted to give a shout out to Ryan Carr. We just planted 9 acres of native prairie at his land there on Saturday. So converting from corn and soybeans to native. It was a good project. And a lot of help. It was really nice to have help to plant 9 acres instead of just one other person. So that was great. Went a lot faster. So I'm going to talk about Sleepy Hollow Fort. So this is in the new industrial park on the north end of Viroqua. Spanky built a new Ford facility, and give or take, he bought 5 acres. About 3 acres of that is the parking lot and the big building down there. And about 2.5 acres was going to be something. We didn't know what. And Spanky reached out to us and asked if we could put it in a native prairie. And this is the result. So this is a picture of that prairie this summer. It's turned out great. So why would he put a prairie at a commercial site here in Viroqua? All the same reasons that it works when we put a prairie strip into a farm. I'm going to go through each one of these, so I won't read through them. But the other thing, of course, is it provides an outlet for waiting customers, which most farms don't have. But I'll talk about these things separately. So, reducing water running off from the land. So this is a picture of that part of that 2.5 acres. You can see the erosion that's coming off of here. It's a pretty flat area compared to even the cornfield. I mean, it's very flat actually. And this was after a 2-inch rain, and there was a fair amount of erosion there. So it's great that the prairie is going to help hold that soil in place, which it's already doing. He's at the very top end of the Bad Axe River watershed. So this is really going to help improve water quality down in the Bad Axe. It increases biodiversity, of course. We installed a really diverse native prairie mix. As of this year, we've identified 73% of those seeds that we put in the ground, which is a fantastic ratio. So really happy with that. Plus we got 3 more native species that we didn't plant, but that were just in the air, and they ended up there and grew there, so that's great. In addition, this is a picture on the left-hand side. We had a drone come out. I'm going to show you some drone footage in a few minutes. And they drove the drone up. There was some monarch butterflies on a compass plant. We've got some pictures of them over on the left side. We've had dick sissels nesting out there for the last 2 years. Dick sissels aren't a rare bird, but they're a little bit unusual. This is the very north edge of their territory. So pretty fantastic. The 2.5 acres on Highway 14 in a commercial park, industrial park, have Dixistals nesting there, and that's great. This isn't a picture that we took there, by the way, this is just off the internet. So. Of course, Spanky wants to try to reduce maintenance costs, and he wants to improve the carbon footprint. So just my estimates, if they were going to mow that 10 times a year, it's going to save him $1,000 a year just mowing a big patch of grass out there that's not going to do anybody any good. It's going to be about 425 pounds of carbon a year from that lawnmower that he's not using. But the prairie itself is going to sink about 7 tons every year forever. So as long as that prairie's there, 2.5 acres will sink about 7 tons of carbon every year. He's also got an electric car charging station there, and you've seen the roof on it. The whole south side is covered with solar panels, so it's a pretty big carbon sink we have on the north side of the road, which is nice. This is a sign that Genesis helped with, so we're putting a sign out here. So this is part of a thing that he's doing for waiting customers, because if you're there and you got kids and cars being worked on and you got an hour with nothing to do, they're directing people outside. They've cut a 1/8 mile trail through the prairie, picnic bench. They're putting up a pergola and a free library next year, which they're populating with books about plantings and birds and things like that. We provided a bench, this interactive sign, and then there's going to be some interpretive sign, especially for kids, saying, oh, can you go out and find a compass point? Can you go out and find a little blue stem? And we'll just show them how to identify those things. So it's going to be a great opportunity. This is the video, which is going to start going. So this is just a minute long, showing the prairie that we put in. So this is Highway 14, there's the Ford facility. This area right here is the 2.5 acres that we put in. It looks really flat there, and actually a large part of it is, but this slope, this part that's on this side of it is very slopey. If we would have taken this video 2 weeks before we did, most of what you're seeing here right now is Indian grass. About 2 weeks before this, it was just this insane carpet of yellow flowers. It was just fantastic. We just couldn't make it happen in time. I do want to give a shout out to Spanky. He was the very first prairie strip that we ever put in, which was my first year working at VSN, which was probably 2018 maybe, 6 years ago. That prairie strip did not work. 2 years later, it was just a wheat field, and he ended up plowing it up and everything. But even after that experience, he loved the idea of it, and he came back to us 3 years later and said, I'm going to have this showcase dealership on Highway 14. Do you want to do it again? And we said yes. And this one turned out really great. So a big shout out to him for believing in us after that first one didn't work very well. But we learned a lot since then. And it is a spectacular prairie, and I do want to encourage everybody to go out there and see it. I mean, you don't have to have your car worked on. You can just park there and walk the trail. It is pretty spectacular. It's a great prairie. That's it.
Thank you, Dave. Now Shelley Brenneman's going to come and talk to us a little bit about some watershed planning activities.
Great to see everyone, lots of longtime members and board members and friends, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Gary Lindberger, who made the table in our office, and it's a center of collaboration, and really we appreciate that. So I'm going to take a second to zoom out a little bit. You've heard a lot of great details about our program work, and just a little bit of history. The first 10 years of VSN we spent taking a close look at water quality in streams, so close up and personal throughout the watershed. Then we had volunteers that had done maybe 10 years of baseline data collection, and they said, what next? What can we contribute to that's going to show some change, some improvement? So we started working a lot more directly with landowners and building trust with farmers and working directly with farmers to say, how can we use our water quality assessment to show improvements after you install a practice? Because we know that in the uplands, what we do on the land really affects the water quality in the valleys. And so we started working a lot more on what is sort of a measuring water quality to help manage the land for improvement. So rather than sort of monitoring problems, we shifted to measuring solutions. How can we help landowners and farmers to implement practices and then measure the benefits of those practices? And then as we start working more and more with landowners and farmers and now with watershed councils, we're kind of zooming out now to almost the watershed level. And so we have, instead of working with individuals, we're now working with watershed councils representing thousands of acres in watersheds. We're really zooming out to work on the watershed sort of landscape scale, which is really exciting. So you start to see a lot of changes that are catalyzed by neighbors and council members working together to implement practices that impact thousands of acres. So it's very exciting. And what this is leading me to talk about is our watershed planning, that we're really getting excited about being more involved in watershed planning. So some of the needs that we have locally for watershed planning are obviously flood prevention, reducing runoff and erosion, improving water quality as always. We still are doing all those things I talked about as we zoom out. We're still doing at all those levels, as you can see tonight. And then also improving wildlife habitat. So on this landscape scale, watershed stewardship, as Genesis talked a lot about, managed grazing is a great tool for that. Native prairie and bird-friendly farming, as Dave said with the prairie, great tool for helping water quality by working in the uplands and on the watershed scale. And then also our monitoring, mapping, and modeling to assess soil water quality, infiltration, erosion, and wildlife, and getting more into measuring not just water quality, but all those other ecological indicators of the health of not just the water, but the whole ecosystem. So that's a direction that we're moving in. Very specifically, the Coon Creek Community Watershed Council approached us and said, we want to do a watershed plan, which is a big deal. It's complicated. It's not so exciting to do planning, but really important. And so we helped them to get involved in this Gulf Hypoxia grant through the Wisconsin DNR, working with Vernon and Monroe County Land and Water Conservation, and working at two levels. One, on the sub-watershed level, they chose Timber Coulee to start focusing on, not because there's a lot of water quality problems in Timber Coulee and this sort of up in the higher reaches of the watershed. The water quality is actually really very good, and so they really want to maintain that excellent watershed. They have lots of great trout habitat, lots of great conservation farming, so they really want to promote and increase that, but to really maintain the excellent water quality, which will then improve water quality downstream as well. And Coon Creek is also at the same time doing an effort to plan for the entire Coon Creek watershed. So we're helping with both of those efforts. So watershed planning, again, what it does is hopefully be more than just a plan. It's a community-led process whereby the community members, the farmers, the landowners work together to determine what can we do in our watershed. How can we plan for improvements that are actually going to happen? Not just a plan that's in a book on a shelf, but how can we actually implement these practices? So we're getting involved, and hopefully this planning process will qualify Coon Creek and other watersheds for a higher level of funding from the state and the federal government to really improve practices, because you've probably all heard of the dam decommissioning. So if the dams are going out, we need to install upland practices, conservation practices that are going to do some of the work that the dams previously did.